Hi, earlier this afternoon I got back from seeing Belfast, the Oscar contender for this year, written and directed by Kenneth Branagh, and based on his youth experiencing the early days of the Troubles in Belfast. A young Buddy has a loving home, loving mother and father, played by Jamie Dornan and Caitríona Balfe. His father's parents are also very close with him, played by Ciarán, Hinds and Judi Dench. And he has a working class but a quite poor but happy life. And then the violence starts, and the army moves in, and the barricades go up, and his family become increasingly concerned about their safety. The film is mind-meltingly shallow. Um, my knowledge of the Troubles and my experience of the Troubles is relatively limited because when I was relatively young, I was living in a foreign country. So although I was aware that uh, oftentimes my father, who was a military officer, would look under the car before he went out just in case, it was rarely any kind of spectre in our lives. But in the same way, the film is trying to be about the Troubles and about the way it's impacting young Buddy's life. But it's just saying, yes, this was a bad thing. The Troubles was bad, and religious intolerance was bad. And it has nothing more to say than that. It's just vague anecdotes from Branagh's childhood that don't really connect into anything greater than that. It's also overly romanticized about the nature of family and community in the area. His mother and father are very much um, uh, not quite romanticized, but idealized parents, and as are his grandparents. And it's a nice street where everyone knows each other, where everyone's nice, and when you steal sweets from the sweet shop, then he calls the police and he gives you a bit of a talking to, and it's all very, very old fashioned, very bland. And I was expecting something, some degree of grit against to measure the fact that this is about a civil war. Um, One thing reading about the film I found rather troubling is that Jude Hill, who plays Buddy, who is effectively the young Branagh, refused in one scene to express the character's support of Tottenham Hotspur because he was a Liverpool fan, and Branagh let this slide. It strikes me that if he's unable to turn that expression of arbitrary tribalism into a teaching moment uh, regarding a film that is about the dangers of arbitrary tribalism, Branagh isn't trying hard enough. He's not actually that interested in any kind of subtext or theme or really having anything to say. He's just reminiscing about his childhood and expecting you to listen and find it entrancing and thrilling. Um, there's also repeated scenes of Buddy watching films on television and in the cinema. And as a way of showing his fascination with stories and filmmaking, obviously going on to be a filmmaker, this in and of itself is just illustrating his character that he likes films. But there's a scene early on where his character watches the ending of High Noon, in which, to the strains of the song "Do Not Forsake Me, My Darling," um, Gary Cooper's sheriff goes out to confront the bad guys in the street with no one else to support him. And then late in the film, his father has to go out into the street and confront the loyalist terrorists. And then on the soundtrack, "Do Not Forsake Me, Oh My Darling" strikes up, and I was staggered by what a terrible artistic choice that was, because it is immediately completely ludicrous. And that scene is resolved with something that's foreshadowed in one scene earlier in a complete non sequitur, and it's a very, very poorly structured script. It doesn't have any real through line, it doesn't have any real theme, it's not about anything. And even though it's supposed to be about what it was like as a child, seeing the start of this terrible conflict firsthand, I came away learning absolutely nothing. It strikes me as as an extremely self-indulgent film. Um, it it has no real value. It has no real purpose. It's a completely pointless exercise in nothingness. I don't know what the point of this film was. and I think it was a waste of time my watching it.